Welcome to Fascinating Flash. Today we're looking at, well, an incredibly complex figure right at the heart of Norse mythology, Odin, the All-Father.
He really is central, isn't he?
Absolutely. And based on the sources, we're going to try and unpack his many sides, his relentless pursuit of wisdom, sometimes at a, well, terrifying cost.
Definitely.
His role as this formidable war god, a cunning leader, and, ultimately a figure facing a known destiny.
Yeah, it's quite the mix. He's not straightforward at all.
So let's dive in. What really defines Odin in these texts? For me, it's that intense, almost desperate search for knowledge.
I agree. And it wasn't free, was it? It came through some pretty significant sacrifices.
Right, the idea that wisdom demanded a physical toll. Giving up an eye just to drink from Mimir's well. That's stuff.
It really is. A source said to contain all wisdom, but the price? Wow. It shows how far he'd go for that insight into the cosmos.
And maybe even more profound, that story on Yggdrasil, the world tree.
Oh, yeah. Hanging there for 9 full nights.
Wounded by his own spear. It's described almost like a shamanic ordeal, isn't it?
Exactly. It wasn't just about endurance. The sources are clear. It was specifically to learn the secret of the runes. A self-sacrifice for mystical knowledge.
So it tells you his power wasn't just, inherent divine strength. It was something acquired.
Through suffering, through focused intent, yes. Getting that wisdom, especially deciphering the runes, was absolutely crucial to his power base.
And he didn't just learn them and put them away. He used them constantly.
All the time. The sources mention him carving them onto his spear, Gungnir, and even his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. They were like instruments of his magic.
Yeah, and you see in texts like the Völuspá, that key prophetic poem, him using runes and magic to, speak with the dead or see the future.
Both. It really underscores how his power was tied to this esoteric knowledge and foresight. It wasn't just brute force.
Which is interesting because then you have the Havamal, where he's giving out surprisingly practical advice, almost like a wise old man.
Right. A blend of the cosmic and the down-to-earth. But let's not forget, this master of wisdom is also undeniably a god of war. Raw power.
Absolute central. He's depicted as decisive in battles. Apparently he could start a war just by throwing Gungnir over the Arnies.
A powerful symbolic act, wasn't it? Claiming the slain for himself. For Valhalla.
And that leads to the Valkyries, his agents on the battlefield.
Yes, those female figures choosing the bravest fallen warriors. The Einherjar.
The Einherjar, and they went straight to
Valhalla, Odin's great hall in Asgard, where they feast on, say, Rimnir.
the boar that just regenerates every night.
That's the one. And they train constantly, non-stop preparation.
The preparation for the end times, for Ragnarok.
Exactly. Odin was destined to lead this army of the dead, riding Sleipnir into that final cataclysmic battle.
And he wasn't alone in his day-to-day either, always accompanied by his ravens.
Hugin and Munin. Thought and memory, bringing him news from all over the world.
And his wolves, too, Jerry and Freki.
Loyal companions. You can see why Vikings would make sacrifices to him, asking for protection or success in battle. He was the ultimate general, the ultimate strategist, maybe.
Which brings us neatly to his leadership. He's the chief god, right? Head of the Aesir.
Yep. Husband of Frigg, father to big names like Thor and Balder, the patriarch.
But his leadership style, it seems a bit complex. He's even credited with starting the Aesir-Vanir War.
He is, though it did end in a sort of peace, a merging of the tribes. But yeah, not exactly straightforward diplomacy.
And the sources mention him just disappearing sometimes for whole seasons.
Like winter, yeah.
Yeah.
With other gods like Ullr stepping in. It's a strange kind of kingship, almost like he had other business elsewhere.
It points to that complex nature again. He wasn't just a noble king on a throne. He could be cunning, even deceitful.
Oh, definitely. The sources highlight that repeatedly. Think about how he got the mead of poetry.
Right, pure trickery involved there, stealing it from the giants.
It suggests that for Odin, the means weren't always the main concern. Getting the valued thing, wisdom, poetry, that was the goal. Resourcefulness, even cunning, was key.
Or that whole messy business with Andvari's gold.
Loki kills someone, Odin demands a ransom in gold.
Loki gets it by force from the dwarf Andvari.
And Andvari curses a specific ring that Loki took. That curse then brings disaster.
And it all stems back to Odin's demand. It shows a pragmatic god, maybe. Not bound by what we'd call heroic ethics.
Not always, no. Practical, maybe ruthless when needed, but despite all this power, knowledge, cunning, his fate was sealed.
Yeah, that's a powerful thread, isn't it? His unavoidable end at Ragnarok. All-Father or not, he's destined to face the monstrous wolf Fenrir.
One of Loki's offspring. And the image is brutal Fenrir devouring Odin whole.
A tragic end for the chief god. Though his son Vidar avenges him, kills the wolf.
That's right. And it's interesting, how later writers like Snorri Sturluson centuries later tried to make sense of these old myths.
Trying to fit them into a more acceptable framework, linking Odin to Troy.
Exactly. Trying to rationalize these pagan stories for a Christianizing world.
So when you pull it all together, Odin is just so much more than that simple image of a bearded god with one eye.
Definitely. He's the seeker of knowledge at any cost, the fearsome warrior, the flawed leader, sometimes absent.
The cunning traveler, the master of magic.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a tragic figure facing destiny.
His story really taps into those deep human tensions, doesn't it? Knowledge versus its cost, war versus wisdom, what leadership means when it's not perfectly heroic.
And facing the inevitable, even when you have immense power.
It makes you think about what power even means in these myths, how it's gained, how it's used, and maybe what its limits are when fate comes calling.
Lots to mull over there. Until next time.